Hi, I'm Hawk Worley. Welcome to my channel. So we're just going to jump into it, right? Kim and I were talking about watching the new Sailor Moon. And it got me thinking about her Sailor Moon costume. And there's a couple things about it that's always bothered me. One of them is this piece here, right? It's the Transformation Locket. It actually says Sailor Moon on it. It's plastic, it's cheesy. It's always bothered me. And since we've been getting into metal casting, I figured, why not give it a shot, right? So the first thing we did was to model it. It's basically just roughing out a bunch of shapes. There's no real secret at this point. I get the rough size I want. I make the profile of the main bulk of the locket. I just keep refining, moving, and refining. And once I get a shape I like, I kind of I decide how many sides I want, and then I make a circle, and I just, do the thing. Lightwave has the ability to extrude in a circle, or extrude along a rail, actually. I don't ever do that. I don't know why I don't. I just, whenever possible, I do it the hard way, because that's just kind of who I am. And once I have a good quarter of it, I can get everything exactly lined up, and just mirror it. I have a nice circle. And I've been trying to get away from everything being watertight. With the resin printer, I have way more latitude to do interesting things. And I just need to relax. So I can just, make each piece, bring it in, and I have the thing I need, instead of just fighting with it to make it all watertight. There's no point in it. And I'm just elongating things and moving things and changing shapes. Like I said, the original said Sailor Moon across it in this weird little valley. I didn't like it. It just seemed chintzy. So to make the moon part, I just put in two circles and kind of connected them. It's way easier than it seems, because I also overcomplicate things a lot. I wanted it rounded. I wanted it to look, I lost the footage of me making the filigree here. But it's just the same thing as everything else. Just doing a bunch of points and making sure everything lines up properly. I wanted something that stood out a little more. Something that Usagi would be like, yeah. And there it is. Turned out pretty nice. I'm happy with it. The next thing we do is 3D print it. I'm using the resin printer just because if I'm going to be sandcasting, the resin is way easier to deal with than trying to smooth out an FDM print. So it's just faster. And this is the new setup I have for my 3D printing room. I have the printer right next to the curing station. I have a nice little lid. I got that idea from Joel Telling. I just laser cut one, a piece of solid acrylic. It really helps. And always shake up your resin before you, you do your thing. I tend to store my resins in the same box just because I know it's light tight. Not that it really matters because I have LED lights in there, so there is zero ultraviolet light coming through. But then select it, hit print, and let it do its thing. I think this one might have been like a 6-hour print. I'm not 100%. It just was as long as it took. I normally don't use gloves, but I figured, if I'm going to be recording, I could at least put on the proper pair of gloves. I know a lot of people use isopropyl alcohol for cleaning. I don't. My buddy Adam turned me on to Simple Green. Getting a big jug. It's super inexpensive. It does a great job of washing off extra resin. I tend to take the lid off, put the cover on so I don't have to worry about anything dripping into my resin, because I don't pay attention as much as I should, and so doing preventative just stops me from messing anything up. It looks nice. I'm pretty happy with it. It turned out all right. I just scrape it straight into the thing. I normally use a razor blade. You know, I didn't this time. I wipe off the build plate, put it back on, close everything up. None of this is new. None of this should be like, oh my goodness, he wipes off the build plate beforehand. It's just standard procedure for 3D printing. So I clean it off. I leave the supports on for this part just because that props it up at a 45-degree angle already. So when I put it in the curing station, I don't have to angle it or do anything weird. So I just, you know, scrub it nice and clean. I have no idea what's in focus in this. Jeez Louise. But once I'm happy with it, I just put it in the curing station. And yeah, I go straight from the simple green to the curing. I'll rinse it off later with regular water. You can really see the detail on this one. It turned out nice. I really liked it. And it just goes around. That's it. Let it cure it. Let it do its thing. When it's done, I do break it apart and put it face down and give it a rotation just so the backside's got something. Backside has a chance to cure too. So once that's out, I knock off all the supports. I rinse the whole thing off in water. I leave it in the sun for a couple of minutes, both sides. Just UV is UV, right? This is where things get new. Kim and I have been metal casting for a little while, and the first step is to cover it, or cover the mold in a release agent. This is a Teton, I believe. That's a brand. A lot of people use baby powder. It's just as, you know, baby powder works absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't know. This is what Kim got, so this is what I use. I like it. It works pretty well. We were having issues finding baby powder for a little while, so she ordered this. It helps the thing pop out of the mold, because the sand will want to stick to everything. And I'm using, I guess it's clay. It's a Delft clay. No, not Delft clay. It's I can't remember the term. It's an oil-infused clay. The brand is Petrobond, but, you know. So I'm just going to sprinkle it on top, break it up a bit. I have a whole bin of it next to me. Pat it out as I go, make sure everything's nice and smooth, nice and flat. This stuff is fantastic. You can hit it, and hit it, and hit it, and legitimately turn it into a brick. This stuff bonds to itself. It compacts really well. I used it in the kukri video. It's the exact same stuff. Most people have a reddish Petrobond. Mine is brown because I've used it. But, you know, you just hit it with a hammer until it just stops moving. I could legitimately hit that for days and it would still just, you know, tighten up even more and more and more and more. But there becomes a point where it's just good enough. Yeah. Scrape off all the extra, that kind of thing. Just be done with it. I found razor blades are the most useful tool in my arsenal when it comes to working with this stuff, because I'm constantly scraping things with it. I have picked it up before and accidentally left the piece that I'm molding on the table. That's how tightly all this stuff can compact. This one wasn't made with that level of draft, but you know, it's close. I'm just going to scrape all the edges so I know I'm working with a nice flat surface. I would hate to have had sand creep underneath, and then when I try to pull the amulet out, it just breaks a bit. So I want to make sure my edges are nice and easily attainable. For a little while there, I would push in around the edges just to give me a little lip. But, you know, for this one I didn't. I didn't think there was a need. And then for the other side, it's the exact same process. Except, you know, make sure you put a parting compound down first. I have forgotten to do that and then been very unhappy with myself. Parting compound isn't cheap, but I sure would be upset if I didn't use enough of it. So I'm just packing the mold in. There's nothing really spectacular about this. And just like the other side, I'm just going to put a bunch of put a bunch of sand in. Hit it with a hammer. Scrape off the excess. Hit it with a hammer more. Trying to clean up as I go. It's a new process. It's a new hobby. I want to, you know, try and teach myself the correct habits as opposed to the bad habits I normally have for everything else. Clean as you go. It's a new concept for me. (2021), the year of good habits. It's always neat to see the two parts apart. The two sides apart. Right now I'm just lightly tapping it to try and break it free a bit. Because like I said, I didn't design it with draft in mind, and I probably should have. So the sides are straight up and down as opposed to being a little flared. The only part that gave me any real trouble is the hole for the amulet, or for the necklace. The rest of it popped out pretty easy. Which is pretty neat. There's a couple spots where sand stuck. It's not that big of a deal. And I have old Slurpee straw I use to cut my holes. Gates and vents and whatever you want to call them. And I tend to put them in the bottom of the mold. That way I don't have to worry about accidentally cutting anything. You know, I don't have to shape the sides any weird way because I've got a gate there. Worst case scenario is I have to extra flatten the back. Not a big deal. And then I use a piece of conduit for the actual pouring spout. It's been sharpened. I don't think sharpened is the right term, but it's the closest one I got. I've just filed the edges a bit, chamfered the edges so they come to a point. Seems to work okay. So I have these plastic scooping things. They're, I believe, putty knives. It's from a cheap set of paint. But it does a really good job of cutting out channels for all of this. But I can't find them. So I use a razor blade. In the end, you use what you got. The one I just did is a vent. So I'm not terribly worried about, you know, all of it. This one I'm not worried about either, really. I should do spin gates and all other kinds of things, but I'm not at that stage of casting yet. Right now I'm just making pretty trinkets. The casting community refers to them as ingots. I'm always amazed at the fact that I can flip these upside down and mess with them and have no problems. It's just sand, right? That's molding. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, the Petrobond. It's oil bonded sand. It's gone through this really interesting chemical process, which makes it compactable, and it sticks pretty well. It needs to be refreshed every now and again. Kim uses 2-cycle oil for that. It's just kind of nifty. So I use bullets primarily. We have a metal recyclery near us, and they set aside their bullets for Kim because she's pretty blonde. And they're a very cool place. I just fill up my bucket. It's a crucible. I fill up my crucible with bullets and then light it. Let it melt. There's certain things that I really enjoy about metal casting. One of the main ones, and I don't know why I enjoy it so much. I think that is just such a cool sound. So here I'm preheating my molds. I get my tools warmed up. I have changed over to full-toed shoes. I have a long sleeve shirt on. Apron. Since I'm using brass, I also have a respirator on because zinc poisoning is not fun. And I'd rather not do the thing if I don't have to do the thing. This crucible is a little worse for wear. This is one of the last pours I make out of it. It has since been retired. I'm pouring two things. I believe it's the Sailor Moon Locket and a Jurassic Park banner. I'm not 100% what I'm casting in the second one. I don't remember. It was, what it was. I'm pretty sure that was the Jurassic Park logo. Turns out I didn't even need any of the ingots because I had less metal than I needed. But, it still was a cool looking fail. And then I put it back in the I put the crucible back in the furnace, and I let it cool down very slowly. That helps prevent the crucible from cracking. And this is the fun part. I get to take it apart. It's still hot. It's all steamy. Moved over to the picnic table so I could get a better shot of it. This is pretty neat. This is an interesting point because right now it's Schrodinger's locket. It could have worked perfectly or it could have completely failed. I have no idea. I am happy to announce that it worked really well. Look at that thing. All the detail, all the parts were captured properly. It's harder to see here because it's, you know, still covered in sand. But it turned out fantastic. And on the bandsaw, I just, you know, carefully cut off the excess flashing. I'm being super cognizant of where my fingers are and where that blade is. Once I'm done with the rough polishing, I bring it over and I use a wire wheel to get all the super fine detail. But there's certain parts that's just, it would take me way too long. It's not really worth the return. So there comes a point where I'm like, you know, it's good enough. And we're coming real close to that point. Get a small buffing wheel, put it on there. Get the big buffing wheel, put it on my drill. And just polish. That's all there really is to it. So I picked up these earrings. I made jewelry pieces from Michael's. They're actual stone. They look fantastic. They're about the right size, I hoped. I'm not quite sure because they have a metal housing for them. So I brought them out to my work table and I heated them up. Heated them. I used the grinder to heat it up. My little grinding bit. And the red one just popped off. I'm like, really? Alright then. I heated the next one up and it also just, you know, once the glue got warm, it popped right off. I did that with all of them. And then I take a round burr, or a round die grinder, a round burr, and I center punch each of the four holes. And then I have a more conical shaped grinding bit I use for the actual, because these are pointed on the inside. Some of them are flat, some of them are pointed. The ones these right here in particular are pointed. So I switch over from the round bit to the pointed. It's not really pointed, it's kind of rounded. And then I just, you know, circle out a channel. That way I've got room for glue and whatever else I want to put in there. Glue in the back of the stone. Got to make sure the thing is tight though, because if it's not, it just kind of slides on me. Brass is easy to work with, but it's not at the exact same time. it is brutal on tools because it's mostly copper, and copper is a very gummy metal. And then I just, drill each of the holes out. Kind of go straight down and taper my way around. I'll give you a better view in a second. So that's all I'm doing. Just drilling out a hole so the stone has somewhere to rest. But we're almost there. I'm excited about how this turns out. I made like 3 of these so far. But that stone fits in there perfect, and oh my goodness, does it look great. Look at that. That's amazing. It doesn't look like a cheap piece of costume jewelry anymore. It looks, like a finished piece. Unfortunately, the pink one is a plastic, and I'm just using Loctite super glue. I'm not using anything super special here. I put on a decent amount of glue, put the bead on, and then do the same thing for all the stones. I wanted, I'm not sure what I wanted for the pink one in the middle, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. So I'm okay with the fact that it's, not necessarily the best stone in the world, but it captures the light in the same way that the actual stone ones do. So I'm okay with it. I mean, and that's pretty much it. We affix it to the costume. Oh, this is what it looks like up close. Right? There's a huge difference between plastic and metal, right? Not even just in look, in weight, in feel. The whole thing it's more complete. And then it goes, on a costume or in a shadow box. Some of these are just going to go into shadow boxes. Let's be honest. I'm probably not going to. The ones I'm sending to the people I care about, I'm going to send in a box with everything around it so it's ready to go. But it looks great. I absolutely love how it turned out. It's pretty neat. I've got a lot of pieces I think I'm going to start metal casting because there's a legitimacy behind a metal part versus a painted part. Because no matter how good it is, in the end, it's painted. And this one says Sailor Moon, right? You're like, oh. This catches the light like only metal really can. I'm very, very happy with how it turned out. So I do this kind of stuff all the time. If you're just here to see Melting Metal, I'll probably do that later. I do costuming primarily. And if this is in your wheelhouse, this is the kind of thing you like, give us a subscribe. If not, thanks for watching the video as far as you have. I do appreciate it. I really, really hope you do subscribe, though, because my camera dies in the last 3 seconds. Really? Alright, so, like I said, like and subscribe. Hope to see you next time.